On an all-new episode of Locked On Cubs, we talk Chicago White Sox all day. No, it's April 1st. I couldn't resist. Come on in. Let's talk Cubs ball.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good morning, Locked On family. Happy Friday to you. This is indeed Locked On Cubs, your favorite team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Andrew Bellison. Welcome on in. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every morning. We appreciate it. We're free and available wherever you source your favorite cast. So check us out today. Check us out on social media as well at Chicago Cubs PA, at Locked On Cubs. And please check out our YouTube page. Subscribe. We'd love to have you. Some awesome content there. Show content daily. Locked On Cubs YouTube. We shall continue today our Sloan Park backfield tour, taking a look at the Cubs prospects in action. We're also going to check in with the other spring training goings on. It's getting busy, ramping up for opening day. We'll have news, notes, and nuggets and more from Sloan Park as spring winds down. Happy Friday to you. Happy April Fool's Day, I must say. Are you ready for the weekend? Before we get there, let's talk about the offseason, huh? Grading out the National League Central and the Cubs. Listen, it's too early, essentially, for report card time, in my opinion. Maybe so. I mean, we can sit here and grade out each team's offseason, albeit a choppy one, given the lockout. However, we really can't give a fair assessment of the moves that were made until October 1st, right? We haven't seen how these contracts have played out, maybe later than that. Nonetheless, Jim Bowden of The Athletic has graded out each squad in Major League Baseball. And today here on Locked On Cubs, I want to take a deeper look into each team's winter work. And as I have said, one of the best things going for this Cubs team is the fact that they are not playing in the toughest division in the world by any stretch. And this is reason number 3 why I think a division championship could be feasible if things go right in 2022. So let's first take a look at what the other 4 clubs did in the National League Central. Let's summarize their action, grade them out with Jim Bowden of The Athletic, and see where they stand. Let's start now with the lowly Cincinnati Reds. Jeff Carr, our colleague on Locked On Reds, I apologize in advance. I don't mean to upset you. The Reds, given a D. That's passing though, right? Barely. What'd they do trade-wise? This is a long list. Traded Jesse Winker. Traded Eugenio Suarez. Traded Sonny Gray. Francis Peguero. Traded Tucker Barnhart. Traded Amir Garrett. Okay, those were not low-level role players. Those were major parts of this Reds team. Additions, free agent-wise, Tommy Pham on a 1-year deal, Donovan Solano, former Marlin, Colin Moran, former Pirate, and pitcher Hunter Strickland, all very small, lower-level deals. So the Reds were quiet in summation before the lockout, apart from declining their 2023 options on lefty Wade Miley. Thank you again. At $10 million, okay, I'm going to go back to this point. We all scratched our heads at that point thinking, why did the Reds part ways with this? We thanked them as Cubs fans and moved on. Wade Miley, if healthy, is going to be a big part of this Cubs rotation. Now it makes more sense. I think the Reds obviously had planned on going full sell mode, but the lockout interrupted that, leaving all of us on the outside wondering what the hell was going on and why they wouldn't want a veteran back like that on such a team-friendly deal. And then after the lockout was lifted, kaboom, the rest is history. They also lost former Cub Nick Castellanos, who opted out of the final 2 years of his contract, then declined the qualifying offer before signing with the Phillies, along with another former Cub, Kyle Schwarber, but let's keep this in the division. Then when the work stoppage ended, the Reds, like I said, went into full sell mode. The best trade in terms of what they did was landing first-round pick Chase Petty, who's an 18-year-old righty, consistently throwing more than 100 miles an hour. That was part of the Sonny Gray deal as well. Worst trade, dump Jesse Winker and Suarez, along with $35 million owed to Suarez for what amounts to 3 role players. Okay, here's the deal on the Reds. The D might be a little aggressive. D minus, maybe. They had people in the industry scratching their heads about the decision to send Garrett away as well for veteran starter Mike Minor, who appears to be in decline. But it's easy to understand these trades essentially now that we've seen them all boil down and can understand what the Reds were trying to accomplish. Nick Krall, their general manager, had to reduce payroll because of the Reds' financial shortfalls over the past couple of years. That's just part of doing business in a small market in Cincinnati, making the baseball and the business end of baseball that much more difficult for those in the front office. Okay, Reds fans, you want the really sad news? Here it goes. With the expanded 12-team playoff field, the Reds would have made the postseason last year, but after these deals and the improvement of some of the other clubs like our Cubs in the Central, it's unlikely they'll do so in 2022. Moving on, Jim Bowden grades the division favorite Milwaukee Brewers with a C+, average plus at best. They acquired Hunter Renfroe before the lockout, acquired infielder Mike Rizzo from the Rays, and JC Mejia, the catcher from the Guardians. Right-hander JC Mejia from the Guardians, pitcher. Free agent-wise, recent deal, Andrew McCutchen spent a lot of his career with the Pirates in the National League Central. Severino behind the plate, Brad Boxberger, another catcher, Brett Sullivan, Trevor Gott. Not huge deals with some of those later names that I mentioned. They lost right fielder Avisail Garcia, former White Sox, in free agency, but that was the corresponding move, the Hunter Renfroe move shortly after that in that trade with the Red Sox. Renfroe and Garcia, very similar players, 25 to 30 home run power, above average defense, et cetera, et cetera. Good low risk veteran move in signing Andrew McCutchen, going to DH a lot, as well as backup catcher Pedro Severino. I mean, listen, with Kutch, you get tons of leadership, 20 home run power. He banked 27 last year. Did you realize that? Also had a 1.027 OPS against left-handers, so still can hold his own. Can Kutch. Severino behind the plate, 2 strong tools, throwing arm and power at the plate. Brad Boxberger, good reunion there on an affordable deal. He was a 3.34 ERA guy with over 11 strikeouts per 9 and 71 outings last year. Still clearly the most talented team in the division, no doubt. That pitching staff, ridiculous. Corbin Burns, Freddie Peralta, yada, yada, yada. We know the deal. Then down to the bullpen with Hader, etc. But can they count on Yelich to stay healthy and bounce back to the guy that we saw a few years ago, as well as have that pitching staff, both rotation and bullpen, carry them to 95 wins again? Tough ask. How about the Pirates? Predicted to finish last in the National League Central Division. C- grade from Jim Bowden of The Athletic for their offseason work. Biggest move, traded catcher Jacob Stallings, stud, to the Marlins. Also in the free agent market, signed our former friend Jose Quintana to a 1-year deal. Yoshi Tsutsugo to a 1-year deal. Catcher Roberto Perez. Daniel Vogelbach, former Cubs farmhand. We saw him with the Brewers. A bunch of smaller, non-big-time headline grabber moves. They cashed in on Stallings, one of their best assets, when they dealt him to the Marlins for 3 players. 32 years old, not going to be part of their plan moving forward, so that was the right move for them. They did spend a little bit with Quintana and Tsutsugo and Perez behind the plate. Perez, 2-time Gold Glove winner, going to help the Pirates fill the void of Stallings. What else? Well, I mean, it was kind of a ho-hum offseason for a team that you don't expect to contend, and an offseason that you'd expect a team that's not supposed to contend to have, more or less. 101 losses last year for the Pirates. They'll pick 4th in this year's MLB draft and look likely, again, as I mentioned, to finish in the cellar of the National League Central Division. They did land the best draft class last year, and their scouting and player development are as good as any teams, although it's just going to take time to get them back where they need to be. Long way away for the Pirates, and a relatively quiet off season. They just aren't ready. The other favorite, we'll call them 1A. Can we do that? The St. Louis Cardinals, probably on paper next to the Brewers, the most talented team in that division. Listen, B-. is what Bowden gave them for their offseason work. They brought in Steven Matz. They brought in TJ McFarland on a 1-year deal. A lot of pitchers. Drew Verhagen on a 2-year deal. Nick Whitgren, Corey Dickerson. Remember him from his time in the National League, 1 year, $5 million. And then the recent reunion with Albert Pujols, which only makes sense. We kind of expected the Cardinals before the lockout to go after one of those big name pitchers. The Scherzers, the Rays, the Marcus Stroman, surprised when they didn't and went kind of like tier B for the Matz deal. He was coming off arguably a career best season. He's going to be 31 years old in May, 14-7, 382 last year in 29 starts, threw a little over 150 innings, but allowed more than 1 hit per inning pitch and had an inflated whip of 1.334, which is about his norm. 45-48 career record with a 4.24 ERA, probably more what you are going to expect from him this year. Boosted their depth with Dickerson, lefty, extra outfielder, occasional DH. What's the bad news here? The injury front for the Redbirds as of late. With Jack Flaherty and Alex Reyes out for the start of the season because of shoulder injuries, front office will be under pressure to add more pitching potentially as we go along. Cardinals have probably the best defensive team in all of baseball, which we're kind of used to seeing from them. They don't do a ton flashy. They just do it the right way and consistently win. But do they have enough pitching, especially with the injuries? Love the Pujols reunion, too. I mean, it only makes sense for the Cardinals, only makes sense for Albert. With the DH in the National League now, I'm glad they were able to make that happen. So here's the deal. In summation, the rest of the division didn't splash into the deep end of the pool, so to speak. But where does that leave us? Well, Bowden graded the Cubs with the best grade of the division, B+ off season. Highest grade. I'm going to go A-. They were busy. Trade-wise, Harold Ramirez from the Guardians, then traded him to the Rays, traded Sergio Alcantara to the Diamondbacks, but in the free agent market, I mean, we've been down this road. Stroman and Suzuki and Villar and Gomes and Smiley, Michael Givens, Andrelton Simmons, Chris Martin, Clint Frazier, Michael Hermosillo, David Robertson, Daniel Norris. Whoa, the list goes on. Let's summarize from the beginning. October, Carter Hawkins signed as the new general manager of your Chicago Cubs, focused on improving their rotation, and did so significantly by signing Stroman right away before that lockout was imposed to a 3-year deal, and the Wade Miley deal claiming him off of waivers from the Reds, as we know. Stroman, ground ball machine, translate well to Wrigley Field. And the ground ball rate has declined in recent years for him a little bit, but a 3.02 ERA last year and 33 starts for the Mets. Great year. What about Miley? We have lovingly been all over this waiver claim from November. 12-7 last year, 337, 28 starts, 5.9 wins above replacement. Keep in mind, too, that he was pitching in Cincinnati half the time, which is a bandbox to say the least. So definitely hitter friendly there, which he still put up good numbers. Pitching depth with Smiley, Givens, Robertson, Martin, Norris, really short up that bullpen. I've said it 1,000 times. The top 3 in the starting rotation with Hendricks and Stroman and Miley is really, really good. Seiya Suzuki's in town. I mean, new right fielder. You got strength up the middle with all those ground ball pitchers in VR now, and Andrelton Simmons and Horner, if he can stay healthy, and Madrigal up the middle. You've got arguably the best catching tandem in the National League, if not all of baseball, with Wilson Contreras and Yan Gomes, neither of whom get enough love. So what does this mean for 2022? You can grade the offseason all you want, but that doesn't win you any ball games. It means this. All of these moves are more so under the radar, in my opinion. Low risk, high reward deals could translate into a ton of success, a la the Giants of 2021, who surpassed their win projection total by 20 some odd games, which is nuts. If you have a few guys click, things can go from there. And as I've said, and I hope this evidenced it for you a bit, the division is not crazy competitive. The Brewers are good. The Cardinals are going to be good. But both of them have some flaws and question marks, and the Reds and Pirates essentially are not ready to compete. So Jim Bowden helped prove my point. This is reason number 3. The Cubs can win the division in 2022. It's the landscape in which they compete. Trust me on this. Some things have to go right. Yes, of course. But is it feasible? Absolutely. Let's head back to sunny Arizona in a minute because the weather here is just atrocious. We're going to continue our tour of the Sloan Park backfields and meet with some more prospects of tomorrow. Before we do, it's time to talk about Built Bar. It's the time of year where your resolution is gone. Adios. You've given up the health for the junk. Don't do it. Incorporate Built Bar back into your routine to keep yourself healthier and your New Year's resolution trucking strong into April. Most Built Bars are just 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Macro world, that's healthy. Compare it to a candy bar, 240 some calories, 30 grams of sugar, tons and tons of net carbs, garbage for your body, garbage for your health. The flavors are good too. Mint brownie, coconut almond. I promise you're going to like it, and we have a special offer for you. Check it out today. Go to built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15. It's LOCKED15. You'll get 15% off your order. Promo code LOCKED15, 15% off built.com. Locked On Cubs rolls on next. Cubs fans, welcome back in Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen today. On the way to work, on the way to school, in the car, on the train, in a taxi, in the Uber. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're free and available wherever you source your favorite cast, so please check us out today. Subscribe to our YouTube page as well. Love to have you along for the ride. Locked On Cubs YouTube. Locked On MLB Prospects. Have you joined that show? Host Lindsey Crosby, he is a prospect encyclopedia, and he goes deep on the MLB stars of mañana. It's free and available wherever you get your cast, so check that out today. So we're taking you to Arizona now because the weather here stinks. It's better out there. Plus, it's good to get to know the Cubs of tomorrow. Speaking of prospects, our friend of the show, Brett Taylor of Bleacher Nation, has a great piece out on some of the Cubs that he saw prospect-wise when he was in Arizona last week and those that stood out to him. And we want to continue to share those with you. Nobody is more locked in with Cubs prospects and the farm system than Brett. So yesterday we looked at the pitcher, hitter, and fielder that popped the most to him and dove in a little bit. Today, let's look at those generating the most buzz, starting with the pitcher that we've heard a lot about from others, and that's Riley Thompson. I don't know if you heard of Thompson or not. He's back healthy now, and he's getting some, hey, have you seen Riley treatment from people around Cubs camp? What's the buzz? Well, Brett said he's hearing that the velocity is closer to the college range than it was in 2019. So the high 90s are back in play for him, which is great. What about a second and third option in the arsenal? His changeup development in 2019 was a really promising story. And Brett said he doesn't worry about the inconsistent curveball then, as that's a strength of the Cubs pitching development team. So behind that popping fastball, good change, still working on that curve, which is nice. What's the expectation here for a guy like Thompson? Probably a double-A candidate to start the year. They're going to prioritize giving him aggressive opportunities after feeling grateful they avoided losing him in the never-happened Rule 5 draft. So eyes out for Riley, happy that he is still turning heads and still part of the Cubs organization. How about the hitter that we're hearing about from others? It's Owen Casey. Casey, as you know, we've touched on this earlier in the year, was drafted by the Padres, came over to the Cubs in the Darvish deal. Says Brett, the big Canadian had an excellent week while he was in town in Mesa, according to multiple people that he spoke with, but he never really saw him take BP live. He spent some time in the big league games, though, did Casey. Not super convinced that this will be the season for Casey's power breakout. It still remains raw. He's super young. Keep that in mind. But Brett doesn't think it'll stop him from having a season that boosts his prospect stock. So we hope for the best there from Casey in the new digs. The approach, the batting eye, willingness to hit the ball to all fields together. Just such a good package. Love the promise with Casey as he generates some early buzz heading towards the 2022 season. And the build that surprised me the most. I love these. You always talk about that with athletes. What's the build? What's he look like? What's his stature? Luis Vasquez, 2 different times, Brett says he walked by Vasquez out of uniforms, and 2 different times it was double take city. Vasquez, known for more as a quality defensive middle infielder, has really always been a guy that people will say, he'll even show you some pop and BP. But a lot of people, around the club and whatnot didn't take that seriously. But Brett said, after seeing the guy in the best shape of his life, upper body muscle development that I never expected he'd have, I'm at least going to have some cautious optimism that he'll walk into 5 to 10 home runs with this year, which is setting the bar low, but would still be a career high for a guy that might surprise you if you see his build out of uniform. I remember this too. I mean, Jason Hayward's a big guy, but when the Cubs signed him, I remember seeing a picture of him from spring training from a Cubs employee in a no shirt or a sleeveless shirt, without the uniform on for the first time, and just being like, oh my gosh, like if right field doesn't work out for the Cubs and for your continued major league career, you could play tight end in the National Football League. You are built. So it's fun to see some of these players out of uniform because you get a different picture of what it's all about. We love going down on the farm with Locked On. It's the success of tomorrow. And suddenly, after all these deals the Cubs made last year at the deadline, their farm system is starting to be stocked again. We want to stay in sunny Mesa because the weather here in Chicagoland, not so good. Snowing here yesterday, garbage. We have spring training news, notes, and nuggets coming up next. After months of playing, college basketball has determined the top teams for the Final Four and will determine this year's national champion this coming week. BetOnline.net, your number one source for all your betting needs and sports information. From all the latest odds, contests, and player props, you name it. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your latest sports development, including podcasts and reviews for all the leagues all season long. And it's not just basketball, Locked On fans. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. More Locked On Cubs coming at you next. Locked On Cubs family, welcome back in. I'm Andrew Bellison. Happy Friday. We're cruising towards the weekend. Are you ready? What are you doing this weekend? You got big plans? Last weekend before opening day, it's official. Baseball season is here. You wouldn't know it in the Chicagoland area if you happen to look out the window, but that's quite all right. We're getting there. Have a bunch of good headlines from Mesa as we knock on the door to opening day. How about Seiya Suzuki showed off his power? First Cubs hit a long 2-run homer to center in the 4th inning the other day. First hit of the spring was an 87-mile-an-hour fastball from lefty Marco Gonzalez. That swing, man, that Suzuki has, is it pretty or what? I know you love that. Back on the ball, slightly uppercut, really drives with the back half. Just so pretty. I think we're going to see that a few more times this year from the Cubs' new slugger. How about left-hander Drew Smyly? He's going to be used as a starter to open the season, and this is what we hope would be the case here on Locked On Cubs. Overall accomplished what he needed to do heading out of spring training. Mariners scored 1 run off Smyly the other day, who walked a batter, gave up 4 hits, and struck out 4 and 2 2/3. Really, really pumped to have another veteran, left-hander, no less. Southpaw bias, I guess, for me, in that Cubs rotation. That's good stuff. Sticking on the pitching side, how about Jesse Chavez, non-roster invitee, helped his case to be part of the opening day bullpen. 4 strikeouts and a walk during 2 scoreless innings in which he did not give up a hit. Jesse Chavez, remember his first go-around with the Cubs, 2018? Joe Madden seemingly used him out of the pen like every day. He was a workhorse. 32 games, 42 strikeouts, $1.15 ERA. Was really, really good. Would love to see him as a vet presence in that Cubs pen. Still very, very capable as well. Here's the Locked On Cubs quote of the day from sunny Mesa, Arizona. It's manager David Ross commenting on whether Nick Madrigal will hit leadoff in the regular season like he has in the Cactus League. This is a topic we have discussed at length here on Locked On Cubs. And he said, definitely on my radar. I always hated that pesky smaller hitter to start, and I don't want to knock his height, but as a catcher to lock that in as a pitcher early on, and his bat-to-ball skills are real. I mean, some of the best in the league. He's hit some balls hard, seems to command the strike zone. Getting on base is just another priority that he understands we want from him. His hit tool is real, so it's been really impressive so far. Remember that like prototypical Lance Johnson type leadoff hitter of yesteryear? I think Madrigal checks those boxes, and I'm old school like that too. I Love that. So again, back to Drew Smyly. Through all his pitches Wednesday against the Mariners, even a splitter changeup a few times, it's a pitch he's still trying to develop. He threw a circle changeup early in his career, but the analytics didn't like it. Nobody really liked it, he said. That's a quote. So Smyly trashed the pitch and started throwing his curveball more, which you love from the left-hand side at any rate. So during the offseason, Smyly was playing around with a splitter grip when he came across a more natural and comfortable one to use for his split change. Plans to keep throwing it and believes it could become a good pitch in his arsenal. However, he needs a lot more reps using it in game situations, and the short spring certainly didn't help that. As he said, quote, "If that was a normal game, I probably wouldn't have thrown it in the two situations I threw it," end quote. One of those hit Jesse Winker, and the other led to his lone walk of the outing on Wednesday. But overall, Drew is satisfied with the performance and believes he's in a good spot with his workload after throwing 45 pitches. Smyly said, "I've always viewed myself as a starter. They told me I'll start, so it was more of just if they need me in the pen or whatever the case, I'm definitely okay and versatile enough to do that role, but I definitely signed here to be a starting pitcher, and I am glad it shook out that way as well because we love to see him in the rotation here at Locked On Cubs." I think Smyly in the rotation this year is going to lead to a few more wins for the team and for him than a lot of people realize at this point, but we shall see. That's a wrap for Locked On Cubs here on April 1st, April Fool's Day. Thank you for making us your first listen today. We ask that you make your second listen, Locked On MLB. Sully, Paul Francis Sullivan, brings you his unique perspective on the major leagues, past and present. Free and available, just like Locked On Cubs is, wherever you source your favorite cast. Happy Friday. We head to the weekend, final weekend before opening day, officially. Until next week, adios. Have a great 2 days. See you Monday.